Solve the following pair of simultaneous equations. Notice that we have 4x minus 2y is equal to -1. And we have 3y minus 8x is equal to 4. What we're going to do here is we're going to label this one as equation 1. We're going to label this one as equation 2. Next, we're gonna make y the subject of equation 1. So we have equation 1 here, and we're going to make y the subject of equation 1. Equation 1 is 4x minus 2y is equal to -1. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to take the 4x and we're going to send it over the equal sign. What that means is when we send it over the equal sign, this was positive 4x and it becomes a negative 4x. And so we have -2y is equal to -1 minus 4x. Next, we divide both sides of this equation by -2. And so this cancels with this. So we have that y is equal to -1 minus 4x all over -2. And we're going to take this equation where y is the subject, and we're going to call this equation 3. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take equation 3, which is this equation, and we're going to substitute equation 3 into equation 2, right? And then solve for x. And so here we have equation 2, which is 3y minus 8x is equal to 4. This is equation 2. We're going to take this equation, equation 2, and we're going to take equation 3, and we're going to substitute equation 3 into equation 2. And so here we have y. What is y? We just figured out what y is. Explicitly, we know that y is equal to -1 minus 4x all over -2. And that's what we're going to substitute into equation 2. And so we have 3 multiplied by -1 minus 4x all over -2 minus 8x is equal to 4. What we're going to do now is we're going to multiply. And so we're going to take 3 and multiply it by -1, and we take 3 and we multiply it by -4x. And so what do we have when we do that? Well, we have 3 times -1, and 3 times -1 is -3. And we have 3 times -4x, and 3 times -4x is -12x. And we still keep the denominator, which is -2. And we have -8x, and this is going to be equal to 4. Now, what we're going to do, what our goal is here, when we have this equation, our goal is to solve for x. But what we have to do is, or what we're going to do is, we're going to eliminate this, or we're going to get rid of this denominator, and that's going to make our job easier. Once we get rid of this denominator, then we can operate on a more simplified linear equation. And so how are we going to get rid of this denominator, this -2? Well, one thing we can do in order to get rid of this denominator is we can multiply each term of this equation by -2. And so our goal, remember, the reason why we're doing this is because we want to eliminate this denominator. And so we multiply each term in this equation by -2. And so we multiply this fraction by -2, multiply -2 by -8x, and we multiply -2 by 4. And so notice what happens. -2 times this entire fraction, what's going to happen? Well, this -2 is going to cancel out with this -2, and we are just left with the numerator. And -2 times -8x is going to be equal to -2x. -2 multiplied by -8x is going to be positive 16x. So what happened now? We still have our denominator. We still have our numerator, which is -3 minus 12x. So we still have our numerator here. -3 minus 12x. We have a -2 multiplied by -8x, and that gives us a positive 16x. And we have a -2 multiplied by 4, and that gives us a -8. And so this here we have our equation. This is nice because we do not have to deal with our denominators anymore. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to send the -3 over the equal sign. And so what we have here is we have -3 all over. When we send it over the equal sign, it becomes a positive 3. And so we have a -8 plus 3. But what do we also have? Well, we have -12x plus 16x. We combine them. -12x plus 16x is going to be positive 4x. And so what we have is 4x is equal to -8 plus 3. And -8 plus 3 is going to be -5. we divide both sides of this equation by 4, and we cancel this 4 with this 4, so we get that x is equal to negative 5 all over 4. So x is equal to negative 5 divided by 4. When we divide, we get negative 1.25. And so that means that x is equal to negative 1.25. And that's great because we know what the value of x is. Now we need to solve for y. So how are we going to figure what is the value of y? But remember, we know what the value of x is. So we're going to take that value of x and we're going to substitute it into equation 3. Remember, this is equation 3. And then we're going to solve for y. And so we have that y is equal to negative 1 minus 4x all over 2. Here we have x. And so x is equal to negative 1.25. So we're going to substitute that in. And so we get that y is equal to negative 1 minus 4, open bracket, negative 1.25 all over negative 2. Let's operate on the numerator. When we do negative 1 minus negative 4 times negative 1.25, when we perform that operation, we get 4 at the top, and we're still divided by negative 2, and 4 divided by negative 2 is definitely 4 divided by negative 2 is definitely negative 2. Again, 4 divided by negative 2 is definitely negative 2. And so that means that for this question, our answer is x is equal to negative 1.5 and y is equal to negative 2. And that's our answer for this particular question.